have visions from La Salle, from the campus here in Barcelona, where we have our specializations in sports management, research, as I'll explain in a moment, connected to technology in different aspects, and entrepreneurship and our startup incubator called Technova, which we have what we like to think is an innovation and entrepreneurship infrastructure and ecosystem here on the campus, okay, which can be applied to sports, and it's what we're doing during this week with Euroleague as part of an ongoing partnership which we've had with Euroleague for the last 5 years or so, okay? And we've got the vision of Induscat with us today. We've got Alex Rivero, who's the cluster manager from Induscat, to give us a vision of what's happening here in Catalonia, okay, which is very important. And obviously we've got the vision of Euroleague. We've got with us Alex Ferrer, who's the Senior Director of Marketing and Communication at Euroleague, and Stephen Dobson, who's the Head of Digital at Euroleague. So we've got some privileged insights here. And of course, perhaps most importantly of all, and we've got them here in front of us this morning, sitting in the front row, are the finalists for our Tech Challenge this week, the startups and the entrepreneurs that have come from different countries around the world to be with us here in Barcelona and share this experience with us this week. And you'll be hearing from them and get the chance to meet them this morning. This is one of the objectives, right? That we network and open a debate here and interact, okay? So, just for those of you that don't know, La Salle, Barcelona campus, we form part of the Ramon Llull University. This is a university which is driven by technology, okay? Our campus is a tech campus. We have a long history and heritage in what's engineering, telecommunications engineering, IT engineering, multimedia engineering, architecture, but construction engineering, animation and visual effects, and now also business, digital transformation are key themes on our campus, which drive us to innovate. Okay, so we're always striving to innovate. We innovate through our teaching and the way our students are the center of everything we do here, and we also innovate obviously through our research activities, okay, and through academia. But also very importantly here, as I said before, we have an innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem here on the campus, and an incubator, a startup incubator in Technova, Barcelona, which houses here on campus 25 approximately high-tech startups which are located here on our campus and form part of our day-to-day activity here on the campus. Okay, so this is a campus which is driven by technology and innovation. All right, so this is where we are. And the partnership we've established here with Euroleague Basketball for this activity is something which I'll explain a bit more about now. But let's reflect just a moment on how far we've come. Okay, in terms of sport and technology and innovation, sport and technology are intertwined. The development of sports has been driven by technology, and sports has driven technological change as well, right? So we can see, if we go back to the origins of kind of the first use of television cameras, we can see it was in a sports context in the Berlin Olympics in 1936. And that was a camera, which was recording the events that were happening there and doing the first kind of local transmission of the athletes, right? Jesse Owens and so forth. And it looks more like something that NASA would have, right? And then we go to the right-hand side and we see where we are today, right? With First Vision and their RefCam and the ability to be inside the game and actually have a unique point of view live during a game. And this is as the technologies and the hardware have reduced in size but increased exponentially in their processing and transmission capabilities, that we're in another world now, right? Where things have moved forward so fast. What does technology provide sports? It's clear, right? It provides sports with a cutting edge. It's the 0.01 second of difference between coming first and second, between gold and silver, between a world record and it not being a world record, from making history and not making history, being a legend and not. This is really important. The sports performance applications of technology in sports are key, okay? But what we have on the other side is the engagement factor. Okay, this is where perhaps we're focusing more now in our Tech Challenge this week, is that the technology can provide fans with a higher level of engagement It can create connections or interactions with fans in different situations, different contexts, through different channels now and different mediums, and through digitalization, experiences that we could never have imagined before. Okay, being in, like we said with the First Vision example, is being inside the game. How close can we bring the fans to the action? Right? Can we immerse them in it? Can we actually enable them to take decisions whilst they're watching the game so they feel like they're actually influencing what's going on the field of play? These are things that technology enables us to do, right? So we can go now to seeing where arenas, like we have the example here on the screen from the NHL, right, and an ice rink, actually become an interactive platform, the arena itself. So we have innovations which are happening inside arenas and innovations which are happening connected to fans and connecting fans who are not there with those arenas and what's happening and the content which is being generated and shared around these sports events. Okay, all being driven by new technologies. What we've got here today in this example of the Euroleague Tech Challenge is clearly an example of open innovation, what we call open innovation, right, in the academic world and in industry now. It's where we've got a sports organization in Euroleague basketball, one of the most important in Europe, and as Alex and Stephen, I'm sure, will explain, a sports organization which is driven by innovation and this desire to be on the on this kind of cutting edge of sports and where the industry is going, and the need to innovate. And we all need to innovate, right? We all need to take it to the next level. How do we do that? You can do it in-house, clearly, which is what Euroleague also do, but you can so find yourself partners. Often in traditionally in sports, these have been the big partners, right? The big tech partners, be it the Microsofts or the IBMs of this world, which is still happening, obviously. But we've got a new source of innovation now, which is what we were talking about yesterday in the kickoff of this event with our entrepreneurs, is the startup world and the startup ecosystems now are fantastic sources of innovation. This is where a lot of the real cutting-edge innovation, the risky stuff is happening, the disruptive stuff is happening, the highly creative stuff is happening. And we have maybe a gap between the two, right? A space in the middle, which is where, through the Tech Challenge, we try and bridge that gap. This is where the university comes in, our innovation and entrepreneurship infrastructure through Technova help bridge this gap. We form a point of connection, a node, an opportunity now with this partnership with Euroleague to innovate, right? To find the synergies, to find the opportunities, be they in tech development and tech adoption, be they business opportunities which are being generated by these new technologies, to see what could come next, what next. Can we collaborate? Can we take it to the next level? How would this happen? So, how the Tech Challenge Week's happening, just to give you an idea, right? We made a call to startups around the world to apply to the Tech Challenge Week. A lot of great startups applied. We shortlisted them. They went to a very prestigious international jury that took a decision to select 10 finalists, or 9 finalists in the end, to come and participate in this event here in Barcelona this week. The objective of this being to put, as we said, to connect Euroleague with these startups. How are we doing that? Through challenges. We use an approach here on campus, which is learning through challenges. Kind of at least our motto is we love challenge. And so we decided, well, let's put this in a challenge situation. Euroleague have got a series of challenges, right, to innovate, to develop, to move forwards. How can these startups help them do that? So in the mornings here, during the next 3 days, our startups are going to be working with coaches from Euroleague basketball. Coaches in this sense being part of the Euroleague management team, not the actual basketball coaches, but the Euroleague management team. And working on trying to solve key challenges with Euroleague basketball. And in the afternoons, we are doing a very creative process, which is trying to imagine what the basketball game of the future will look like, kind of 5 years from now, and at the arena, and also through the mediated experience, right, consumed through whatever channels would exist, right, 5 years from now. And this is going to enable force us to consider how these startups that are with us today are adopting new technologies which are relevant for sports and using them in their businesses now. And some of the technologies that we're going to be exploring and looking at their application to Euroleague basketball and sports in general will be things like we have on the screen, right? Things that we all know. There's no surprise here. Artificial intelligence. How's this going to be transforming sports in the next 5 years or so? What opportunities exist here in terms of machine learning, of creating intelligent systems that can better serve, maybe, the key actors or key stakeholders in sports. Virtual or augmented realities, new realities, right, or hybrid reality experiences, particularly for fans or maybe also for athletes too. Blockchain and new payment systems, totally new ways of perceiving how we monitor and track transactions which occur, obviously, every second in the sports industry. Automation of processes and services at arenas, for example. How's this going to change? What role will robotics and similar have in the arena of the future? And there's obviously this huge, which underpins it all, right, which is this question of connectivity. How are we going to be connecting in the near future? What's the next generation of connectivity, 5G, going to do to sports? All of these things are what are we going to see. And then obviously the big question of data, and how data is being generated in sports, managed, communicated, and enabling us hopefully to take better decisions. Okay, so these are some of the trends and tendencies that we'll be looking at. We can discuss these. These are the things to start us thinking right here this morning too. Maybe because there'll be a question and answer session, and obviously a networking and breakfast after we finished here, where we can all kind of talk about these issues. But just to inspire us with a few ideas for now. I'm sure it's something that our speakers are going to pick up on in their contributions to this morning's debate. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce the other speakers now. So I think Alex is first up, Alex Rivera, who's the cluster manager for Induscat, who's going to give us now the vision of kind of innovation in sport and their activities here in Catalonia. Alex?
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, man.
I suppose it's here. Yeah. Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me to share the floor with you and to participate to take part of this event. I think that these kind of events are really, really interesting and are really aligned with one of our vision we have in Induscat, that it's that Barcelona or Catalonia is very friendly for sport, and it's also very friendly to startups. We are able to find reports in media every week or every weekend talking about how Barcelona is well known as a hub for startups. So we from Induscat believe that we are able to. Our vision is to convert Barcelona like in the Silicon Valley for the sports startups industry. So it's like to be able to bring startups interested in sport or interested in launch their project in sport here in Barcelona. Well, I have prepared some slides just to explain who we are and our vision about innovation and entrepreneurship in sports. When we talk about Catalan Sports Cluster, we are talking about the sports industry, and when we say that we want to help companies to improve their competitiveness, we are not talking about the sport competitiveness. We are talking about industry competitiveness. So we think always about business models and value chains. And here you have some pictures about, and behind each one of these pictures you can imagine at least one business model related to facilities, related to events, related to products or services. And when we created Induscat 8 years ago, we tried to do a mapping about to define the perimeter of the sports industry, and we define it like this. We understand the sports industry like the addition of 3 value chains that are sharing the same customer, and the customer is mainly the sport practitioner. We think about the value chains about the sporting events. And when we talk about sporting events, we are thinking also in participating events or events as a show. I mean, the marathon 2 weeks ago was a great example. You have the top athletes competing for and doing their best marks, but also 15,000 people running like amateur runners enjoying doing the marathon. So when we talk about events, we are not talking only about the company that is leading the organization of the events. We are thinking on all the value chain, also the companies that are providing services to this leader, to that leader to organize the event. The second one is about the sports facilities. We can imagine a sports center, and there is a company or an organization managing that sports center, but we don't think only in this company. There are lots of companies that take part in the process of setting up that sport facility, from engineers to facility services. And this is the second value chain. And the third one, it's maybe more related to all of us, if all of us are practicing sport. It's what we use or what we consume when we are practicing sport. In the first thought, we can think about textile, the bicycle, and a ball, but we are not thinking only in products. We are thinking also in services, and we are not thinking about what we use while we are practicing a sport. We're thinking also before and after. So we can imagine that there are a lot of services related to trainers, to physiotherapists, many disciplines related to the sport practitioners. Then this is the focus, and I add fun between the brackets, because our main focus is about practicing sport. But sport is also a very interesting content, and there are a lot of money around the sport as a content in terms of media rights, in terms of sponsorship. There are a lot of money over there. When we think about the sports industry in Catalonia, we're talking about more than 600 companies, over 4,000 million incomes a year. That's about 2% of GDP of Catalonia, and more than 25,000 employees. So it's a relevant industry in Catalonia, and that's why we think that we have the opportunity to boost it. And from these 600 companies, we have about 75, so we need to grow. We are just a part of them, and our role as a cluster is trying to help these companies to become more competitive. And when we talk about competitiveness, and what we try to do with them is to launch a cooperative project between them. Catalonia is a country of SMEs. Sports is not an exception. We have a lot of SMEs, and SMEs has not enough capability of launching their own projects. So they need to cooperate, and cooperate between them, and cooperate with startups. That's why when we talk about competitiveness, we are thinking about internationalization, talent, but especially innovation and entrepreneurship. When we talk about innovation, we are not only talking about technology. Technology is very important, that's obvious, but we are thinking in all kinds of technology, developing new products, developing new services, commercial synergies or alliances between companies. And when we think about entrepreneurship, it's because we understand entrepreneurship as a way for the companies to be innovative and to have more talent in their companies. So we have an explanation about that. Maybe the PPT will be available. I don't know if it will be able to share with the attendants. I tried to do a slide about some of those challenges and trends Chris was already talking about. We understand that there are challenges and trends that are global, and that's not only about the sports. We can find them in some other industries, about omnichannel, customer experience in terms of retail, the big data. And we think that there is an opportunity about developing big data, especially with sports consumers. There's only another challenge about personalization, gamification, and social sharing. All all the topics related to this, to these three concepts. Life is mobile. We had the Mobile World Congress, and when we are able to understand or to imagine how will be the future in mobile, and also virtual reality and artificial reality. Our focus in the SCAT focus is more related to sport practitioner, and that's why I decided to put these 5 trends. There is something related to IoT, wearables, and apps. Also improved training and performance. It's also a driver. There is an opportunity around health. Every time more people is practicing sport because of their awareness of their own health, and there is an opportunity also in the healthy habits. No? Also diversification and specialization of sport practices and services. That means that every week, every month, or every year, there are more activities. We were not able to think about a discipline called polo by bike. There is a park in Barcelona where there are people playing polo, not riding a horse, riding a bike. This is a completely new and unimaginable activity maybe a few years ago. This is a new discipline, and this is an example of how we can find new activities every year. And the challenge of sophistication. We had the challenge of accessibility a few years ago. There were many people interested in practicing sport, but it was not easy because of lack of time, because of many things. And now the market is bigger. One of the challenge is not as much accessibility. The challenge is more related to sophistication. And related to sport fan, there are some phenomena like eSports or athletes as media. No? Many times we see that maybe media, maybe an example is Gerard Piqué and those interviews. No? He's doing and sharing through social network, and maybe they are a competitor for the traditional media, and this is a challenge. And fan experience, for sure, fan experience. We know Roger from First Vision. You talked about First Vision before. This is a very good example about how technology and can do a relevant contribution to improve the fan experience. And from those 75 members we have in the SCAT, I just pick three of them that are startups. Skitut is one startup related to the experience of the skier. No? When you go to ski, their solution allows you to monitorize your activity and to share it by social media, and you also can plan the itinerary we want to do inside a ski resort. There is another one, Gym for Less. It's also well known here in Catalonia. It was sold 1 month ago to Sodexo, a very big company, and they allow us to access to multiple gyms, becoming a member of that platform. And SpinTech is another one. This is related to improving the training and the performance of the tennis players. They have a software that allows you to convert a smart court, a court in a smart one, and monitorize all your activity and give you advices about how to improve your playing in tennis. These are 3 examples of companies, Catalan startups that are working on improve the experience. I'm going to jump that one. Related to entrepreneurship, from InDescat we're trying to do something similar to this, but very in a local scale. Is that boost or allow Catalan startups to launch their project and to be successful. We call the program InDesApp. and we did the first edition last year, and we are really happy about the results. We organized 5 activities: a meeting between startups and consolidated companies. We organize a process of mentoring for several startups. We also organize a training day that we call the Day of a Sport Entrepreneur. Also, in the Day of the Sport Entrepreneur, we organized our first sport investor forum, and we were quite happy about the results. There is not any deal by the moment, but we were able to raise up startups and to identify potential investors in the sports industry. And we also organized a prize about recognizing the best project, the best entrepreneur project in Catalonia. This allows us to confirm that Catalonia is a territory when you can find lots of companies, lots of startups, and the topic, starting up in sports, is interesting. This is a program we are developing with ICEP, it's an International Center of Entrepreneurs in Barcelona, and they are helping us with all their knowledge and all their capabilities in terms of training and accompany the startups. And then here you have the companies the 6 companies we help in our mentoring program, and the 6 companies that participate in the Investors Forum. This was what I prepared, just to give you an overview about our understanding of the sports industry and our understanding about the innovation challenge, and what we try to do, and how we try to help the startups in the sport. So that's all. Thank you.
Alex. So what we're going to do now is pass on pass to Euroleague basketball, and Alex and Stephen. I think they're going to do a team presentation here, which is there. But we'll have the vision now. If we have Induscat and the vision from Catalonia and a sports cluster, okay, what's the vision from one of the major leagues and actors in the European sports industry, which is Euroleague basketball. Cool. You guys want to go ahead? Alex, Stephen?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for the invitation to La Salle. I'm here with my colleague, Stephen. My name is Alex Ferrer. I'm the head of marketing and communications at Euroleague Basketball. Stephen is head of digital, and we'll be basically introducing a number of projects that we have either already executed or that we are planning to execute in the next future. It's a mix of things. We just wanted to bring a little bit of everything, just for you to have a taste on what we're doing, and obviously we'll be open to any questions later on when we finish. Before we start, just we had 2-3 introduction slides. I guess everybody in the room more or less knows what the Euroleague is, or at least we are dealing with basketball. We'll explain a little more, not much, but we would like to start with the introduction video, very quick. There's no sound. Should be okay now? Yeah. So basically, our business is to organize basketball competitions. We own the two major basketball competitions in the clubs competitions internationally in Europe, the Euroleague and the Euro Cup. So it's kind of the Champions League and the UEFA Europe Cup, but on basketball. We have some of the biggest sports brands, not only in Europe but in the world, taking part in these two competitions. We also manage other smaller projects, under 18 tournaments, sports business MBAs within our educational program, social responsibility programs Europe-wide with all our teams. And we mainly are commissioned by our clubs to commercialize the collective rights of the league. Okay, so all of the clubs are putting together all of their, or some of their sponsorship rights, all of their media rights, and we are basically designated to commercialize that and sell that for them in a collective manner, and of course then distribute the money to the clubs. Moving next, before we start with the specific projects, just a very brief intro. Basketball is a sport that is normally has a deeper involvement with technology than other sports, especially if you compare it to football, for example, less than others, if you compare it to Formula 1 or MotoGP, for example, as well. But still, it's a sport that has always embraced technology in earlier stages than many other sports. We are hearing lots of talks now in Europe about this video officiating and when it will come to football, and everybody is so happy that, or some are happy, some others aren't, but it seems it's coming now. Well, that's been in basketball for ages. I don't know when it started. So it's been traditionally a sport that adapts technology earlier than others. At Euroleague, we also have kind of a techie DNA and more of a tech and innovation DNA. We've since the start and the creation of the league in the year 2000, that was an innovation already, breaking with traditional models, building something different that never existed in any sport in Europe. Most recently, we have launched also for the first time in sports in Europe a true league where all teams are playing each other, which doesn't happen in any other sport in Europe. It happens in the States and in other parts of the world, but in Europe it's the first ever. So sometimes that caused some discrepancies and some conflicts, but we've always decided to take risks to progress and to growth, and obviously here is no difference, and that's why we are so happy to always take or try to identify what's coming next. That's part of the objective of this tech challenge, to have these startups coming here to Barcelona to understand what's coming and to be quick in adapting that and staying or trying to stay ahead of the curve. To start with, we had, I think Chris talked about this. We had this, we have put this, the first one, because it's special, because it's La Salle students who came up with this project. I think they came to our offices in 2014, if I remember well, or 2014 or 15. I don't really know, but they came there with this technology that they had barely tested with one team in some training sessions. It was a football team, but it was a training session. That football team didn't want to take the risk to take this to a big event, and they came up with this solution, which is basically a camera. It's a shirt that weighs, I think it's 200 or 250 grams. It was a little more at that time. With a battery, with a transmission device, and basically it covers, it films whatever, the game live, and it can broadcast live as well, whatever you're filming. We found it was so cool that we wanted to go ahead with this. We knew we would have some trouble, we would have some problems, but we started testing immediately in private environment first. I think the first time we tested was here at La Salle as well, with our own staff playing with these shirts. And only a few months later, this was on the chests of the referees. And again, a few weeks later, it was on the chests of players. It was the first time in the world any major professional competition had cameras on players on the chest. So that was a very, very good experiment, and since then we've continued doing mostly with referees, because with players it's a little difficult, but with players it's been a regular thing in many of our events. And I think there should be a video here. This is from the players cam.
Turkish Airlines Euroleague on Friday became the first major professional sports competition in the world to test players wearing jersey cams in an official game. Robertas Yaptokas and Edgaras Ulanovas of Žalgiris Kaunas wore the micro cameras on their uniforms during their visit to Real Madrid in the last game of the top 16. This pioneering test, which relayed images from the jersey cams to the live television audience during the game, is a collaboration between Euroleague Basketball, Canal Plus and First Vision Cam. By giving them the same visual perspectives as the players themselves, Euroleague Basketball reinforced its commitment to enhancing the fan experience with new technologies now and in the future.
So we found a number of problems here, especially with the transmission and how that affected any other devices that were in the same frequencies. So at the beginning it wasn't easy. It was problematic. The image was not that stable. Now the technology has evolved so much. The image is full HD, is super stable. And it has no interference with all the devices. So they managed along the way together with us. They managed to solve the problems we were encountering. And the latest experiment we've done with them was at the Final Four, where we not only had one camera on the refs, but we had two. One at the front, another one at the back, which allowed us to get a 360 view of the game from the perspective of the referee. I didn't bring any videos here because it would be a little stupid to show 360 videos in this screen, but you can try that. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. You can find that very easily if you put Euroleague VR RefCam. You will find that, and it's a very cool experience to be at the center of the court when the game's starting. And be able to turn around, if you get your glasses or you get your phone, turn around and see exactly what the ref is seeing and experiencing at that time. So that was the first example we wanted to bring. I think the next one is going to be presented by Stephen. Please, whenever you want.
Just to add to this, most VR systems get placed around the court or in the crowds, and the experience of seeing VR when you're sat in the crowd is just not the same. It doesn't bring it to life like when you've got a camera on actually in the middle of the court. So having that ability to put a camera on a ref, like the videos we had were quite a lot better than what you'd see in a typical VR sports experience. So just having the ability to for the refs to allow us to put it on them, I think is really quite cool. So the next kind of step on is, again, it's about access. So our fans just love access. New access to players, access to personal lives, access to the game, all this kind of stuff. And so that is the 361, but I'll...
It's the same video. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the next level of our kind of access project. This is called HEED, and It's very, very cool. It's very, very experimental still. So what we'll show you is stuff that's not been published right at this moment. It's not available for fans. So it's not just for your eyes only, the other people have seen it, but it's not very polished yet. So I'll just kind of like tempering your expectations. This is in beta, and it's not been done before in world sport, from what we know. So HEED. This is a JV between an Israeli company that provide data solutions and also our JV partners, WME, IMG, so the big mega agency that manage sports and entertainment and things like this. So they've applied this system to UFC and also to Euroleague. The whole premise behind this is basically there's lots of kind of interesting stories going on the basketball court that an average fan or a casual fan might not be able to spot. A former player might, a coach probably would, and a super fan would. I'm thinking things like, is the team energy low or high? Have they played 5 games in the last 10 days? Can you spot that in the way the team plays? Is the player who's about to take a free throw under extreme pressure? These are the kind of stories that you could probably spot if you know the game really well, but a casual fan wouldn't necessarily see them. And we as a league and most sports aren't bringing these stories to life at the moment. So that's the premise behind it. But what is it? So broadly speaking, it's an IoT system. It's a load of sensors all around the arena, on the court, cameras, on the players, on some of the fans in the crowd, on the coaches. And with these sensors, we're measuring stuff like acceleration, jump height, jump distance, jump time, biometrics like heart rate, breathing rate, core body temperature, cameras that have facial recognition technology. So the cameras can actually see, based on a coach or a player's face, what kind of agitation, what kind of level of pressure they're feeling. We have decibel counters in the crowd, measuring volume. And these systems can actually kind of not just measure the volume, but they can actually kind of track what's the actual activity that the crowd's doing. So they'll recognize clapping or booing or cheering. So overall, you can measure, like, is the crowd having an impact on the game? Is it very high pressure arena? Is it low pressure? Is it loud, noisy? So there's loads of things that we're kind of trying to do with all of these sensors. This is what it looks like in the arena. There's cameras around the sides. There's cameras on the players, cameras on the ball, obviously. There's cameras on the crowd, coaches. The coaches wear wristbands, which can track some of their biometrics. The players themselves have these kind of jerseys on them. You've probably seen them in a lot of football teams train with them. They have biometric sensors strapped onto the players. And like I said, there's decibel counters and volume measures inside the crowd. So we put monitors and sensors on players, coaches, and members of the crowd. We've been doing this all season so far at 2 clubs, Fenerbahce Dogus in Istanbul, Maccabi Tel Aviv. And so when these teams play at home, all the players are strapped up with the sensors, all the monitors and sensors are tracking everything. And the away teams, when they play in these arenas, wear those sensors as well. So all of this information is getting put into the HEED artificial intelligence agent, which has a system that allows it to spot which are the most interesting and which are the kind of most exciting plays, exciting moments from the game. And it automatically packages those highlights with some graphic effects over the top, which layers on some of these stories based on the data. So, like I said, this is still quite experimental, and we've not made it available to fans, but right now, just as of last week, the app has been made live, so we've been testing it during the live games, during the round last week. We'll be testing it this week as well. But this is kind of roughly what it looks like. And there's different indexes for each of the different things we can measure. So coach tension, pressure, team energy, just a few of these. And like I said, this is really out there. You know, this is stuff that's not been done before. So let me play you a few videos. And just to give you a sense of what this looks like. Again, they're not polished. They're mock-ups at the moment, and some of the storytelling expertise that you might get from one of our editorial team haven't been layered on top. So let me play it for you. got a few more. That's a common internet meme. You've probably seen that before. Super Mario. So, you know, there's some cool things that we can do with it. Right now, this probably looks like a load of numbers on screen. The idea is that there'll be some real editorial thought behind what the stories are we're trying to tell. So each of these numbers will mean something. There's a bit of a job to do to educate fans on some of these indexes before the numbers mean very much. But you can see this is just kind of gives you a bit of a look at the potential of it and what we can potentially do. So a couple of things to share on like challenges on it. But basically, most important for us is how the players feel. Look, I know we've got a few former players in the room. You know, playing with something that it's small and it's not very obtrusive, but look, if you're a player and it's a problem for you to wear this thing on your chest, we won't force you to wear it. You know, it's up to the players to do that. And mostly the players have been quite bought into it. They believe in what we're trying to do. And critically, all of this content that's going to be generated has a revenue model behind it that the players are part of. So they're part of the business model here. So it's not just asking the players to give up their data and, you know, wear something obtrusive, not obtrusive, but a little bit uncomfortable. Then, you know, like we're actually including them in the whole business model. So that's the idea behind it. So that is Heed. Like I said, it's quite experimental and cool. We do have the app available now. So if anyone wants to have a look at what it looks like currently, because it's made a few steps on since what we shared here. I've got it. I guess you've probably got it. Yeah, there's a bunch of other Euroleaguers around the room who've probably got it. So yeah, have an ask and we can show it to you what it's up to now. But Alex, I'll hand back over to you to talk about data.
Okay, so next up, the third project we wanted to present, and this is also in development right now. So this is not fully working. It's working at some speed now, but still is far from being finished. It's a project we call EDDI. EDDI is called for Euroleague Digital Intelligence Engine. It's basically an engine that will allow us to process big amounts of data of our fans, and that responds to a need we identified to basically know better who our fans are. We have an aggregated number of millions and millions of fans in our social channels together with the teams. Also, we have millions and millions of fans visiting our websites, downloading our apps, playing our games. So all of that is there, but we know very little about them. Very, very little. Google knows our fans extremely well. Facebook knows our fans extremely well. And we don't know our fans well at all. So that was the starting problem. And obviously, we as a sports property and as owners of the club's brands and of the competition, we are supposed to know our fans better than anyone else. So we started this also to solve a second problem, which is that right now we have a number of touch points where our fans interact with the league or with the clubs. And all of those touch points are generating different databases that sit in different places, in different servers, and have very little connection one to another. So it was impossible for us to know, or it was possible, but it would require a lot of work. it was very difficult for us to know whether Stephen, who played the fantasy challenge, built a team in the fantasy challenge, and maybe never did any further changes, but the team was there. But it was difficult for us to know that Stephen as well bought 2 years ago Euroleague TV Pass, which is the streaming service, and that this year he bought a ticket to go to all games to FC Barcelona, and that on top of that his favorite player is Jan Vesely from Fenerbahce. And all of this is what we need to know. We want to go to that detail and to build all the automated processes, not only to extract that data, but also and to extract conclusions from that, but also to communicate later on with Stephen and to maybe send him a promotion so he buys again the streaming product, because he didn't buy it for the last 2 seasons. Maybe with an offer he would again, and maybe another offer from Fenerbahce to sell him at a special price the jersey from Vesely, and why not a signed jersey? Maybe he would buy that as well. So we are in the process of building this together with our partners, IMG. Basically, we don't expect you to read any of the things that are on screen, but it's kind of a map of, on the right side you have the touch points and data collection points that would be entering Eddy, the Eddy engine, where the analytics and the intelligence process will be applied, that will make the team, the insights team, ready to get conclusions and to visualize that data in a very intuitive way, so that these conclusions can be then passed on to the profit units in the company and in the clubs, so they can later on communicate with those fans or use that intelligence to communicate with other stakeholders, be it sponsors, be it licensees, be it whatever it may be. So all of that is what we are building now. We have divided the process in a number of stages. We are at stage 1 right now, which is basically making sure that all the data we collect as a league is reaching one single point, one single engine, and then is analyzed, and we are building all these intelligence process and visualization tools as well. And on the second stage, we'll put on top of this all the automated communication tools that we already exist, but obviously they need to be linked to all of this. And then the next phase will be to progressively incorporate clubs. So we will start with 1 or 2 clubs, because the needs of the clubs are not exactly the same as the ones we have as a league. So we will start testing with 1 or 2 clubs to make sure we get the thing right, and we get the clubs are able to get the most out of it, and then we'll roll out to the 16 clubs in the Euroleague. I just brought an example, which is from a similar engine, from a different property. There are very few properties in the world that have a similar engine. This is only the profile of the fan of a full season from a team in the States. This is part of the information you can get. This is probably only 0.01% of what you can get, but this is just an example. You could know, if your fans like cars, and maybe then you can give that information to your sales team, commercial team, and they can approach car brands and say, hey, look, all my fans, 70% of my fans love cars. They visit car sites. Maybe 10% are probably thinking of buying a new car in the next 2 years. So all of this information is valuable for all of the sales teams and sales units in any given sports property. Anything else you want to add, Stephen, before we move to the next one?
I don't think so.
No? Obviously, any questions at the end, we'll be happy to respond. Next up, I think there's this one and one last, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. This is also very briefly, I want to explain something that we have put in place this year as well, and that has allowed us to progress a lot in the way we produce content, in the way we organize our content production teams. We have partnered with a company that probably some of you know, which is called WSC, that allows you to basically synchronize video with data so you can automate the processes of video production. Very simple, and I will try to recap. I tried to make the story simple with this drawing on screen. I don't know if I'll manage, but I'll try. On the left side, you see the game that is happening. Obviously, this is covered by cameras on one side and by our statistics team. So there's people sitting in the arena just logging in all the events that happen during any given game. All of this is put together by the system and storage at the cloud. So you have, in one single stream, you have the video and you have all of the metadata related to every single frame of the video. So what this allows you to do is to, on one side, to request any kind of footage that you want in a matter of seconds. So, for example, I could request right now, give me all of the three-pointers that Navarro scored in the last 3 years. That video in 2 or 5 seconds will be in my computer. Or I can say, please give me all the, I don't know, the blocks of any other given player, all the last-second shots of all of the last 5 games of Maccabi. I don't know, whatever you may request, the system gets it to you immediately. But not only that, it also allows you to automate the production. So I can tell the system in advance today, please make sure that in the next games, until the season ends, if any given player scores more than 20 points, I want that video in my computer, and I want that video to be sent to the relevant team of the player that scored those points, and I want that video to be published automatically on YouTube, for example, or on Euroleague TV. And that happens. So that suddenly allows you to, all of the people that were doing this and investing hours and hours in production time, that suddenly allows you to dedicate that time of that people to do something else. We are now testing as well automate highlights creation. So the highlights of the games, doing them automatically and not having someone watching the game, selecting the plays, keeping them in a list, then reviewing them again, trying to make sure it's the 3 minutes we are allowed to do. So all of that is a process that it takes hours. And with this, it's just automatic. So you don't need that investment of time. So that's another interesting tool related to technology we wanted to present. And last in the list, I think this is the Creators Network. And I think Stephen knows better than anybody and can explain better.
So there's been loads said and written and talked about whether young people actually want to watch sport at like full games anymore, whether they just want to watch highlights, whether they'd rather watch something else entirely. And we've been thinking a lot about, as a league, about how we package our content and where we put our content and what kind of stories we tell about the league as well and about the game. And this is what our Creators Network is really about. So, this is about taking Euroleague to new audiences and especially younger audiences. So sometimes called influencers, we're kind of calling them creators. And this is anybody on any of the major platforms, this is how we view it anyway, with a significant audience size. And there's large influencers creators, which we think covers anyone over kind of like 250, 300,000 subscribers, followers, cross-platform. And then there's micro influencers. And these are people perhaps with as small as 10, 15,000 audiences cross-platform. And we're working on 2 different kind of projects here. The first one is a micro-influencers network, and the second one is a larger creators project where we'll work with 1 or 2 creators to create something multi-video. So firstly, the micro-influencers. Up here, you'll see some of them. Hoopsidia is a French YouTuber. Matthew is German. The lady in the middle is from Serbia. She's an Instagrammer. She's a big basketball fan, but she mostly posts about fashion. So Matthew is mostly gaming, but he does a little bit of basketball. Tricky 10 from Serbia, he is pure basketball, 10,000 hours. We've worked with Adidas at last season's Final Four. He's American, he's pure basketball. The idea is to work with some who are creating basketball content and some who are creating content in totally different content verticals. So stuff that's popular with young people, gaming, fashion, music, and actually other sports as well. But to bring some of our Euroleague content to these new audiences and to package it in a slightly different way. So we're giving these creators a package of access to games, access to players. We're using the WSC tool, or will be shortly, that Alex just described, to give edited highlights. So some of these YouTubers can take our HD highlights and make reaction videos for them, which is very popular online. So we want to kind of like take this influencer network and we want to feed it with Euroleague content and Euroleague access. They can do vlogs of games. We want to profile the league in a really positive way by giving them access to the best games and making sure they have really great experiences. And basically, it's a chance to bring new fans to the league, but we'll also work with some of our commercial partners, like we did with Adidas, with 10,000 hours at the bottom, to create new content for partners as well. So we've just started this, and it's been going for about a month now. We've been doing a lot of research behind it beforehand. And so we've identified the list of who we want to work with. We've contacted most of them, and we're starting to create the videos now. The larger creators project is something that we're working on, which will be with just 1 or 2 creators with more like 1 million subscribers, followers, cross-platform. And with these guys, rather than giving them, access to a game or highlights or something like this, we're going to create probably a series of videos around basketball challenges. So again, we're basically moving into some of these common online video trends and putting Euroleague at the heart of them. Idea being, we'll bring new fans in. So that's the creators network, and I think that's it for us, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Okay, it's great privileged insight right into really what's happening now and for the near future in Euroleague. So the idea now is that we listen to our finalists, our startups. So what we've invited them to do is to prepare, which entrepreneurs are used to, right? Elevator pitches and so on, to present themselves in like 2 minutes, so that everyone knows who they are, so that afterwards, maybe in the coffee breakfast, that we can all get to know each other a lot faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to call you up in order, as you've got it on the list of participants here in the brochure which you've been given. So I just ask you to come up onto the stage. We agreed 2 minutes each, okay, max. So watch your tea, the first one's up. Okay, so watch your tea are gonna come up and present, yeah? Okay, so just get a chance to meet these guys, find out what they're doing, what's their value proposition, a little bit more about their business. Okay, I think it's turned on.
Thank you. Okay, so we've seen here that live video is the most engaging kind of content for fans. So when we see games in broadcast, we see the professional produced broadcast of the game. But there are lots of content that can be catched and streamed for fans with many different points of view about the competitions, before games, after the games, even during the games. But to create all this kind of content, you have to spend a lot of money in professional cameras, satellite connections, cables, or mobile unit tracks, I don't know. It's very expensive and complex to create content. So we have created in Barcelona, Watch It 2 years ago, to develop a platform to allow media companies and professional sports clubs and competitions to create live video, but only using smartphones and tablets, and to send all this live video to social networks where the audience is waiting for this kind of content. So clubs and media companies can create lots of live video, but without spending money in professional equipment. They only have to bring their smartphones, distribute the recording task between all the people or the staff from the club or the competition, and manage professional live video experience for the fans, for the younger generations in social media, in Twitter, in Facebook, in YouTube, wherever, or in the website, and create content that will engage them the same way as the TV is doing, but with a very, very low cost. That's what we are doing. That you can see our demo there in the exhibition. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So next up, NFC sound. Thanks.
Buenos dias. Hi, everyone. You all know that to open data in your telephone, you have to connect to a server and extract the data from the server. If you don't have internet, you can extract any data. Not all of you will have internet in their phones, okay? It's only 30 to 40% of you, so the rest we cannot engage. This is the solution that we are targeting, connectivity issues. And we do it by using the sound as a technology protocol. We embed high-frequency audio barcodes into the sound to send data. We propagate it through the sound, and we create offline experiences. You, with the app, will listen to the sound, extract the data that we are sending through any source sound, and open it in your app. All this process, since we are not calling any server, is an offline process. That means that we can engage 100% of people in every place. That doesn't mean how far or remote it is. We can engage people in mountains, in airlines, in trains, in tunnels, in stadiums, everywhere, because unlike internet, the sound is everywhere. So we're creating offline experiences through the sound. Okay, we send data through the sound, and we can connect with everyone and everywhere. We use it mostly for smart stadiums, sponsorship, business to business, airlines, marketing, information, gamification, payment authentication. Probably you have never heard of it. It's called Internet of Sound. This is what we do. I'll happy to demo for you if you are interested. It's not just a new business model, it's a new technology and a new digital frontier. We are NFC Sound. I'm Daniel. Thanks for listening.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. Great. Next up, Pico GP.
Hi, good morning. My name is Asaf, and I am the CEO of Pico GP, which is kind of like MotoGP. Just the GP stands for Get Personal, and not the Grand Prix. I'm going to shock you and tell you that the way fans communicate with sports teams has changed in the last decade, right? You probably know that. Fans doesn't want to sit on the bench anymore. They want to be part of the story. They want their voice to be heard. But the teams, they live in a digital age, and they now realize that everything they're doing, website, mobile apps, email messaging, text messages, this doesn't really work anymore. One of the reasons for that is because every fan is unique, and you want to have a personalized and intimate experience with the team. You kind of like want to feel the team is a friend of his. We have built Pico, which is the personalized fan communication platform, and we help sports teams to shift from the one-to-many communication strategy to a one-to-one approach. So we communicate with their fans wherever the fans are, in which channels the fans prefer, and we don't ask them to download any app, and doesn't change anything in the way they're used to communicate. We operate from Israel, United States, and Europe, and you can find our solution in some Euroleague teams like Maccabi Tel Aviv, Eurocup teams like Hapoel Jerusalem. We work in the US with NHL teams, and we're now expanding our operations globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Engage. I think Engage, have they arrived or not? You arrived yesterday later. All right, okay, thanks.
Okay, so we know 4 basic facts that I want to start with. First of all, global sports sponsorship is about $70 billion that's being spent right now. Now, the second fact is that we have a global fragmented fan base, fans all over the world. The third fact that we know is, after a survey of about 70 different teams from around the world, fan engagement between the sponsors and the fans is anywhere between 4 to 6% right now. And the question is why? Why is fan engagement so low? And what we come to find is that people have a predisposition simply not to like advertisements. In fact, they're even willing to pay money not to see advertisements. So Engage has built a platform that bridges the existing gap between fans and sponsors by gamifying advertising in 3 easy steps. The first step is we disguise ads into short, fun mobile games. The second step is we run competitive tournaments, geo-fence tournaments, tournaments that can be ran on any channel, where the fans are asked to play and compete in a 60-second tournament for exclusive experience-based prizes. And the third step is we collect an incredible amount of data and provide insights and analytics to the sport teams and to the sponsors as well. After doing so, running beta testing with Maccabi Tel Aviv for the last 2 years, we were able to triple the fan engagement for them, among a lot of other interesting KPIs, which we'd be happy to discuss with you afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, Content Stadium.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jasper Swelheim, CEO of Content Stadium. Well, being a sports agency within the content industry, we had to create for our clients content during the real-time sporting moment, so during matches and real-time sporting events. But this is actually pretty hard when you're doing Photoshop, because you're either not quick enough or, as you know, sports during the weekends and in nights, you don't have enough possession as a club or enough budget to create all this content. So that's why we came up with the idea of Content Stadium. And Content Stadium is a platform that empowers these editorial teams of sports organizations, sports clubs, sports broadcasters or leagues to create real-time content, so visuals, infographics and videos during live matches. So with one click on a button, you can integrate real-time stats from providers like Gracenote or Opta or Delta Tray. This is how we started. Nowadays, our clients, we're approaching 80 clients in over 10 countries now, use Content Stadium for their, well, full communication. And we started off with visuals, but as I mentioned, it's now also video, and we're, well, very happy to show you on our computer after this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Coach Couch. Coach, I know, is this right? Couch Coach.
Couch Coach.
There's the.
Well, what do you do when you watch
Right.
the TV game at your home? Do you use mobile phone for chatting, for something like that? Because 84% of people are using mobile phone while they are watching the game. And Couch Coach is an app, a second screen app, where you can be in the role of the coach during the game. It's a gamification of the real game. Help your team win.
Being the part of Euroleague, and as I mentioned yesterday, I felt this what you saw on the video clip. Being a former player and being a member of Euroleague, I'm here to be a part that gives exactly what the coaches feels, what the players feels, what the fan feels, and I had the chance to feel it from really main role being on the court. So what the Euroleague is doing now, it's something that I wish I experienced as a player, but now I see that this goes really, really fast and really far away. And here we are to present the game that you can really press button once or 5 times or 10 times during one quarter. You can really feel the same or similar feeling as a coach, as a player, or as a fan. Thank you for listening us.
Thank you. Okay, perfect trip. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Richard, and I'm the CEO and founder of Favendo. So, Perfect Trip is just the name of the solution. We are a bit bigger startup with about 100 employees in Germany, and we are specialists for IoT and location-based service, and we are digitizing buildings. So what we're doing is like we have different types of sensors like iBeacons or other stuff, and we put into the building. And why we're doing it? Because we can communicate with the people within the arena. So the first product what we launched was that we transformed GPS from outer to the inner stadium. So you can do, for example, in a stadium, indoor navigation, have a friend finder, can do mobile payment, because everything you need is like to have the live position of the customer. So we started with these big train stations, airports, shopping centers. Now we have had the first installation in the German ice hockey stadium. And we hope that we'll have a big basketball stadium in the future as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any more bubblets? Good. Thank you.
Hello. We are Bubbles, and we are from Greece. The main idea behind Bubbles is very simple. Everybody owns a smartphone, and everybody owns a social media account. It's common. And everybody's creating content, unique content, from his own unique point of view. What we're doing in Bubbles, we give you augmented reality tools so you can create the content you believe represents you concerning sports, basketball, and Euroleague. But more, as a social media marketing platform, we are following this content to know the reach, the impact, how many people liked it, and generally, big data analytics, how many people create that kind of content, how many people follow a special kind of content, and how this can be useful to Euroleague, to sports, to brands, and to e-shops, in order for you to represent them and to make it impact to a lot of people. That's what we're doing as a social media platform, and we'll be happy to show you in our laptops. Thank you.
And last but not least, Accredito. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tomasz. I'm from Poland. I'm CEO of Accredito.com platform. It's a communication platform for all the relations between press and media teams and journalists, editorials, and it's an answer to a huge gap on the market. You can check that even biggest teams like Barcelona are working with the journalists on the email or faxes. So it's, on the one hand, it's a software to make it easy, and on the other hand, we are creating new standards. Yeah, so all of our journalists are verified, but the editorial teams. So the press office are having 100% guarantee that the guy that is making a request for accreditation is from the correct editorial name. He's not just writing it in the email. And it's for accreditations, press releases, interview management, and we want to develop also to cover volunteers, stewards, VIPs coverage on the games. And we are from Poland, as I said. We started on our domestic market 3 years ago. We have over 100 clients in Poland. When journalists have just one account to make relations to all the press offices in one place, and now we are going global. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks very much for your pitches there. Great. The idea now is that we're going to have a little Q&A. Okay, a little some questions and answers. A little debate discussion between the participants here. If you've got any questions now's the time to ask them, either to the guys from Euroleague, to any of our finalists, or, okay, anyone that wants to make a question, now's the time. What we'll do then is we'll have, after the debate and discussion, we'll move on to a little kind of breakfast that we've got prepared for you guys, a coffee and so on. And then you can meet obviously the finalists personally, and everyone can network, and they will also, the finalists are more than happy to demo some of their solutions for you, okay, those of you who are interested in knowing more, right, about the different solutions. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask? Anyone like to, any questions, comments, doubts, anything that's not been clear?
I would like to ask, in the highlights that you show in your
website after the games. It comes very fast after the games, minutes, I think. Do you create this with this content automation process?
Oh, sorry. Not yet. Those are created by a human being. It's a process where several people interfere. So there's a video editor sitting in London, clipping all those images that he finds they might be relevant to the story of the game. There's an editorial team sitting here in Barcelona that is watching the game as well, and that is in communication with this person and telling him what place he needs to make sure they are in, according to what he sees and what we need to tell. So right now, you know, we make sure that everything is ready at the end of the game, so the editor only has to do a couple of things and publish. So it comes very fast. We have tested already, and we have some examples of this automation to produce the highlights. The result is almost the same. It's curious because it takes, you don't need to tell the system anything. It selects the place that he finds they are interesting according to if they are a game changer, if there's a lot of noise in the arena because it's a spectacular move, and you check, you compare the two, and I think 90% of the plays were exactly the same. So we are still testing to make sure. We don't think it's ready to launch now, but it probably will be in a few weeks or months. We will be doing that automatically. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any more questions? Must have some questions. Come all this way in the snow.
On the data project, there was a one sign in for all the apps of Euroleague idea to have one account for the fan, I guess. Do you believe that it's possible to make it for the clubs as well, for their website, their shops, or it's just for your in-house apps and websites, everything that Euroleague is developing?
Do you want to reply to that?
Yeah, I'll go. So, yes, it is possible, but it's a very big task to get to that. So the EDI project, is the data management project, we call it EDI, the Euroleague Data and Intelligence Engine, it starts out as a system to manage all of our league-owned channels, and over time, we'll roll this out to teams as well. But we'll start just onboarding our own data, and then probably we'll work with one or two teams to start with over the coming months. But every team has a different set of platforms. Some teams have apps, some teams don't. So it's just going to be a big task to get there. But the idea is that the Euroleague data system manages league and club. But I think probably end of next season, so probably May next year, we'll have made a lot more steps forward with the clubs, and I imagine it will take perhaps another season beyond that to have everything onboarded. We're still at the process of auditing what platforms and data the teams have. So there's a lot of work.
I'm asking because a lot of the clubs are multidisciplinary, so they have one website for football, basketball, handball. So it's hard to inject something just for football, for basketball.
Yeah, the teams manage their data. Some have them separately in databases, some have it one combined. So we'll go through it each case by case, but some of those challenges will come up for sure.
Yes, well, I actually love what you're doing with your creative network, your seeding network, to distribute content. And from an agency point of view, I was just being curious how the deals are set up. I mean, if you don't want to share it, no problem. This is one question I was interested in. And the other one is, what are your KPIs for these cooperations with these creative guys?
What was the first question?
how the deals are set up. I mean, you give them some sort of fixed amount, or
for the micro influencers, there's no fees involved, and so we work on an individual basis depending on what that creator wants to do, and we've got some rough KPIs on views and engagements, but because there's no fee, we don't ask for an actual set guarantee. And so by providing tickets access, it's fairly low effort and low cost for us. With the larger project where we're investing more of the league's budget into that, we're operating a cost per view. So we have an actual, it's about 0.03 mostly euros per view, which is like a standard benchmark. So depending on how much we're spending, we're benchmarking it against that. We have a benchmark for engagements as well, which varies market to market, actually. And so when it comes to the actual deals with the creators that we're working with on the major project, and there's fees involved, we're working with an agency to help manage that. And the initial contact's made through them, whereas the micro influencers, we just go direct to them. We pick either message them direct, or we'll get their email off YouTube and start talking. Basically, it's there's no set process yet. Some we've had a set brief on what we want them to do. Others we've just said, go create, see what you can do. So we're still working it out, I suppose, is the answer.
So you're not really using them to build your own fan base actually on your socials, or to build your database? No,
all of this sits on their channels. In some cases, we're planning to take little excerpts. Most of this is in local language, and so the creators do everything in Serbian or Greek, whereas everything we do is English. So we've been reluctant so far to take anything foreign language, well, not foreign language, but non-English language, onto our channels, because we'd have to subtitle it, and we weren't really sure about about how the fans would react. But the whole idea here is that we're giving creative control to the influencers, and they do what they want within certain confines. Yeah.
So we've got time for one more question. If anyone wants to make a last question. Anyone? If not, there's enough people here, I think, where we can go and have a coffee, and anyone who's got any questions can approach any of the people here in the room and start a conversation. As I said, our startups are happy to demo any of their solutions. So if you'd like to go up and see, what are their solutions like for real in action, please come and talk to them. Thanks to everyone for coming here this morning. Thanks especially to Euroleague as our partner in this activity, and the organisers of the event here this morning. Especially thank you to you guys for coming. I suggest we move over to get some coffee and continue talking. Thanks very much.
Thank you.